The West Coast swing for the Dallas Cowboys has come to a conclusion as the team returns to the Lone Star State for more Inside Cowboys training camp, driven by Ford. Kyle Youmans alongside Mickey Spagnola here from the Globe Life Studios, where, Mickey, we are back from the California coast, and it's a little bit warmer in Texas. It's cool in the studios for us for these shows, thank goodness. But this is a definite switch for the Cowboys as training camp continues.
Yeah, absolutely. Cowboys get back here. First thing, I should say, not even first thing Saturday morning. It was like 5 o'clock in the morning, I think, when we landed. Had the practice on Monday at the Ford Center, and kind of a mock game practice today, and then tomorrow they'll get back in pads here at the Star.
And these are crucial weeks coming up for the Cowboys heading into the regular season. Of course, the opener September 9th against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but they've had some injuries to deal with now. Week 1 against the Pittsburgh Steelers in the Hall of Fame game, one of the biggest storylines was a lack of injuries. Well, that Arizona game certainly wasn't the case. Which ones stick out to you the most?
The one that sticks out to me the most was Neville Gallimore. He ended up dislocating his elbow early in the game. I think that the biggest concern that evening before they got an MRI the next day was, are we going to have to do surgery? Because surgery might have put him out several months. Well, it's a dislocation. Doesn't look like he needs surgery, which means 4 to 6 weeks. So, Kyle, they're going to have to make a decision on if they put him on IR return. He would have to be on the roster, the 53, for a day before they can do that. Or they just keep him on the 53 and say, okay, we got a couple weeks before the season starts. If that's at the low end, he might be ready week 3. So we'll see where that one goes. But that one concerns me because they don't have somebody that is ready to go to be that backup 3 technique guy. I think they got rotation guys, but I'm not sure they've got a guy that they're going to send out there and go, okay, you're going to get 40 snaps.
All of a sudden, with the injury to Gallimore and no Tristan Hill already, as he's continuing to be on the physically unable to perform list, that 3 technique spot does look a little thin. What about the tight end, Sean McCune? He had an ankle injury in the middle of that Arizona game. What is his timetable?
Yeah, I think that one, too, is concerning because it sounds like it's a high ankle sprain, so it's not just a common one, and those are usually about at least 2 to 4 weeks, depending on the severity. So again, here's another guy that might not be ready for the season opener. And you already had Dalton Schultz dealing with a little bit of an ankle. I think he's good to go, but now you're looking for the 3rd tight end. Might give an opportunity to Jeremy Sprinkle. And also, had they had the 3 tight ends, they might have kept a fullback. Well, then you lost Alana Lua, and so now Nick Ralston's the next fullback, the only other fullback. So we'll see how that one plays out between 3 tight ends, 4 tight ends, a fullback, no fullback. That's the decision they're going to have to make here in a couple weeks.
Yeah, not the best news for the Cowboys as the priority continues to be health in terms of the preseason, but it's going to happen. There are a couple guys banged up. But what about Dak Prescott? He's had some good news over the last week. What is his timetable for return, and how has he been looking on the practice field when we return with more Inside Cowboys Training Camp?
Inside Cowboys Training Camp, presented by Ford, is brought to you by AT&T. More for your thing, that's our thing. Sleep Number. The Sleep Number 360 smart bed helps everyone from parents to pros improve their performance through quality sleep, only at a Sleep Number store. And by Ford, built for Texas, built for you. This segment is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors, official sporting goods retailer of the Dallas Cowboys.
Since the last episode of Inside Cowboys Training Camp presented by Ford, Dak Prescott has returned to throwing. He returned to throwing action during the camp out in Oxnard and on the West Coast. And now as they return to Frisco, there's hope around him and hope around what were good positive results off of another MRI.
Yeah, it was great to see him throwing in Oxnard. He threw extensively to Amari Cooper in training camp on a Tuesday, and then in practice on Wednesday, he took part in the individual drills, threw quite a bit, and then Friday night before the Cowboys preseason game at Arizona, he worked out pretty extensively and then threw again during the workout Monday night at the Ford Center. So again, he's throwing well. The MRI was positive. The shoulder muscle is repairing and progressing the way they hope to. So yeah, all systems go right now for Dak Prescott.
Yeah, QB1 continues to check off the boxes. What about Mike McCarthy and his coaching staff? What is his plan with Dak Prescott this preseason, and should we expect him over the next couple of weeks?
If he doesn't play this week, I won't play him in the fourth game. I've just never. To me, the fourth game's for the players that are competing for the final roster spots. I mean, that's what I believe in, and I think it's definitely the case for us this year. I mean, if you look at the way this is shaken out, it's definitely needed, across a number of different positions. So, we'll see how the week goes, but I have no. There's no urgency from my perspective to see Dak play in Houston. This is more about, we just don't want to create a setback possibility, because his volume of throwing leading up to that point, I mean, he was probably in mid-season form just for the amount of work that he put in over the summer, coming out of the OTAs. So we're just trying to get that volume back to where it belongs.
So, of course, the mindset of being careful continues to reign supreme throughout the Cowboys coaching staff. But as for Dak Prescott specifically, does a guy heading into his sixth year really need those preseason reps?
Well, I think you would like him to have those. So they're going to judge that this week to see just how much the muscle is repairing. I think from a quarterback standpoint, I'd like to get a series or two in there just because, look, he left the game 5 weeks into last season and hasn't played in a game. For a quarterback, they like to be able to go out there and see things. They like to get in the huddle, go through the whole operation. Now, I know you can do that in practice, but it's a different thing in a game. But again, if they feel like, no, we still need to be safe, as Mike McCarthy said, playing in a preseason game right now is not a priority. So if he doesn't play Saturday night against Houston, then it sounds like McCarthy's thinking he ain't playing in that last game.
You can try all you can, but as long as the quarterback still has a red jersey on, you cannot replicate game reps. And up until this point, week 5 to week 1 of 2021 is exactly how long Dak Prescott will be without those game reps. When we come back, what is the camp schedule for inside Cowboys training camp and the rest of training camp here in Frisco when we return?
This segment was brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors, official sporting goods retailer of the Dallas Cowboys. Inside Cowboys training camp presented by Ford was brought to you by AT&T. More for your thing, that's our thing. Sleep Number. The Sleep Number 360 smart bed helps everyone from parents to pros improve their performance through quality sleep. Only at a Sleep Number store. And by Ford. Built for Texas, built for you.
Alongside Mickey Spagnola, I'm Kyle Youmans for the final segment here of Inside Cowboys Training Camp, driven by Ford. And Mickey, training camp not over. Of course, it still has training camp up on the board behind us, but how hard is it to keep a focus from Frisco, or in the difference from Oxnard to Frisco?
Yeah, I think a lot of times with a young team, you finish the training camp portion in Oxnard, you end up coming home and you're thinking, okay, we're out, school's out. Well, not so much, because training camp continues this week here and continues next week, leading up to that third preseason game. So I thought Monday night the focus was really good. And I think on purpose, they put the pads on and really had an extensive practice to remind these guys, hey, it ain't over with yet.
And they did it in front of about 8,000 fans at the Ford Center. A couple more open practices that fans can be involved in as well. For Mickey, I'm Kyle Youmans. That'll do it for this edition of Inside Cowboys Training Camp, driven by Ford.